anyway, that's it. So in other respects, I guess, typical private school. So these were the students, and they do seem engaged here, but that's probably because I selected the photos carefully. So there were 26, of which 3 were female, 14 years old. Well, you can see that for yourself. And we were using the EV3 Lego Mindstorms robot, if you're familiar with that. It has 4 output ports for motors and lights and other devices, sounds and so on, and 4 input ports for sensors. And it comes with proximity sensors, light sensors, which can be switched into different modes, switch sensors or bump sensors. And what else? Oh, it's got a gyro sensor built in, which is quite nice as well. So I had them for 3 periods a week, each period, whether 2 periods of an hour and 1 of 45 minutes, a rather strange timetable, but that's the way it was. Okay, so that's them. Okay, and what did we do? Sorry, still trying to keep both notes going. So, well, let's put a course on Moodle. That seems to be the first thing to do. And put up some instructions and some, welcome messages and tell them what we're doing and why we're doing it and all that sort of good stuff. I'll talk a little bit more later about the course, and I'll show you what they thought about it. But yeah, it's a pretty standard Moodle course. In fact, there are only a couple of sections, one for interaction and another one with, I think I only put 3 resources in the course because I didn't want to overload them with stuff that they weren't going to look at and weren't going to need. We used OneDrive, Microsoft OneDrive Share for the leaderboard. So this is a standard Excel spreadsheet here. You can see the groups here. You can see the badges and awards, achievement awards are here. So they come up to a nice little total. The students can see. What's the advantage of doing it this way? Well, it's live. So as soon as they click on the link here in the course, it takes them to the live. I guess it's SharePoint in the back end. I didn't ask the IT department how they were doing it, but I guess it's probably SharePoint based. And the teacher can obviously edit it. Yeah, so you can see that I have editing permissions for this spreadsheet. Students don't. So it's actually very easy to keep it up to date during the lesson. Just have to jump on the computer and add points to different people. So it just about fitted on the overhead display so that they could see what their points were. Of course, they could also go to their computers and look at those. So it was quite neat. It means we didn't have to do the old style Moodle thing of deleting a file and uploading a new one every so often. So badges, I used some badges. I kind of made them up fairly primitive, fairly quickly. I borrowed these icons from somebody I should really be crediting here. I'm awfully sorry. They're the same ones that I used in the Moodle theme. Oh, God, sorry, my brain's not very good Friday after a week of school. Anyway, so yeah, I'll post a reference somewhere in the course to where I took it from. But they're under CC, so you can use them freely. They're really nice. So somebody else might recognize these. Evolved was the theme. So if you've seen the Evolved theme, that uses the same icon set, but only in monochrome, not in color. But I guess that's neither here nor there. Badge making, if you've never done it, as long as you've got decent graphics program, you don't need very much. You need a 90 pixel by 90 pixel image. And in this case, the badges were issued manually by role, so there were no criteria for students to meet. So it was a particularly simple and easy way to do it. Some of the badges were set up in advance as I did planning, as as you usually do for a course, and others were just kind of made up on the fly, inspired by the things that the students were doing, because the nature of this course wasn't a taught course. I didn't stand up in front and say, now we're going to use the proximity sensor and how it works. I just let them go at it and figure it out for themselves. And that was really the best. So as I saw people do things like attach a GoPro camera to a Lego robot and monitor the room, I thought, ooh, that's clever. Okay, we'll have a badge for that. We'll have a video maker badge. As I saw people taking photos and videos with their cameras of their robots working, I thought, oh yeah, that's a good use for a badge. Or making up tunes, or all the other little things that they did. So I would just write up a badge description on the whiteboard and say, if you do this, you get this badge, and that was quite interesting. And of course, a little element of competition, and try and keep them focused a bit. So why did I do it? Seemed like a good idea at the time, I suppose. Did it have any value with this particular set of students in this particular environment? I wanted to introduce some elements of competitiveness, because I knew up front that the class was mainly boys, and I do know that boys can be competitive. Perhaps, I don't know, perhaps more than girls, perhaps not. Depends on your point of view, and it depends on the girls and boys you have. In a sporty school, there's always a little competitiveness. Fun, yeah, and the motivation. Okay, so to try and keep them on track, because I'm not giving them, I'm not doing it in a didactic mode. I'm letting them explore, which is like the original idea of Mindstorms, of course. Because I had groups of 3, which was not ideal and not particularly desirable, let's try and keep number 3 occupied, because obviously numbers 1 and 2 are going to be busy either programming or building or both, leaving number 3 to wander around and cause trouble or get into mischief or interrupt other groups or whatever. So I tried to encourage them to record what the others were doing and blog about it, and issue, for example, a video badge or a blogger's badge or something like that. In fact, in practice, of course, unless you sit over their shoulder every minute and make them do it, they won't. So not very much blogging took place. And I wouldn't, to be fair, I probably wouldn't have introduced it into such a practical course unless I was worried about, the third person being a little bit idle. Just probably a classroom control mechanism as much as anything else. Sometimes we need them. So what did students do? And remembering that they were set free to do what they wanted. So these were some of the things they did and some of the badges that they earned. Apologize a little bit for goal 1 and goal 2. Probably having a bad day when I was a bit busy. But yeah, so we've got some of those. So yeah, so musician, video maker, sensobotic, whatever that means. And then and then some other things for people to do. The color sensor on these machines is quite sophisticated. So that's actually quite nice. There's a little checkbox option so that you can, the students can very easily pick a color that they want to recognize, which adds some really, really interesting possibilities. We didn't really have time to explore them in this particular course, sadly. Was only a 4-week course, only 3 lessons a week. So, we did what we could in the time we had. Now, what began to happen, almost inevitably, was I foolishly mentioned in a previous course I'd done some sumo wrestling robots with students. Suddenly, everybody wanted to build the strongest possible what they could, and they didn't want to program it. I also mentioned, oh, look, there's an app for the EV3, so you can control it with your smartphone, which is interesting well, a little bit off the topic. So they obviously downloaded the app and started building monster robots that could, that they could control with the app. They could control the movement, which was interesting and fun and very rowdy, but didn't really address the purpose of the lesson, which was to teach them a little bit about programming. So I had to really refocus the course. I needed something to get them back on track and also not wreck the place, sort of thing. So, and all the equipment. So what did we do? Well, these, I'm not going to read all of these, obviously, and neither are you, because I'm not going to give you enough time. But you've got the slides in the course, so you can go back and have a look at this later on if you want to look at some of these goals in detail. But yeah, just for example, the first one, so locate an object, pick it up or push it out. So extra points, triple what the usual points were, and a new achievement. So yeah, just to get them back on track and thinking about programming again. And that was pretty successful. So we did that in week 3, and they took to that quite well. All right, and then this week, and as I say, I just finished with them today. They were working on these, and we got some pretty good things. All of these achieved, except for the cooperating teams achievement. It does perhaps not come naturally to students to cooperate. These other achievements were in fact achieved, so that was quite good. I was quite happy with that. What did they think? Feel free, by the way, to ask a question at any stage, because we're about halfway through and we're going to be over in 15 minutes or less, I think. So if you want to interrupt at any stage and discuss something further, you're most welcome to. Here's what the students thought. Okay, so got 18 responses from them in an anonymous survey, so that's a pretty good return rate. Of course, I hounded them to do it, but yeah, it's still a pretty good return rate. So most of them, obviously enjoyed it, found it interesting. Nobody found it terrible. That's a plus. All right. A couple of people found it boring. One person found it boring. I don't know if Meh is boring as well. I guess it probably is too. So yeah, maybe about a third of the students were going, I don't really like this. I don't really want to do this. Perhaps they were too polite to say it was actually terrible and an awful experience, but they didn't. So that's a win. No. Okay. This was, I suppose it was a surprise to me. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, there is always one, or more, as it happens. You couldn't get a much more even split than that, could you? Out of the 18 respondents, some good, some bad. The general impression was positive, I have to say. They seemed quite into badges when I spoke to them, but then you never know with students really. Are they just being polite? Are they they're not prepared to say no, that sucks, it was terrible? And so when you actually approach them and ask them what they thought about it, they tend to say it's good. Yeah, okay, so there's that. The leaderboard, this was a real surprise actually. I probably should have asked them a bit more about the leaderboard, but I couldn't really run the feedback before yesterday and today. So, okay. Bye, Victoria. Yep. Okay. So I probably should have asked a bit more about this. They didn't seem to look at it, although it was there. But on the other hand, at least once in every lesson, the students would come up to me and say, oh, look, I did this and I don't have the points for it yet, and I don't have the badge for it yet. So perhaps that was down to, like, they were delegating that to one person. in each group to keep track of the awards. I don't really know without doing more research on that. And of course, if I thought a bit more about the question, most lessons, what does that mean? Does it mean every lesson, or 3 lessons out of 4 or whatever? So I probably could have done better with the question if I thought about it a bit harder there. And of course, it would be good if I could follow up with interviews, but didn't have time for that either. And chance is gone. So that's that. Now, plus minus interesting. So this is what the students said in their additional comments. Okay, students are pretty good at recognizing the teacher's motives. You try and disguise them probably, but they can usually see through that. So yeah, they understood what I was trying to do. Yeah, now there you go. Yeah, bright students will do that. Okay, minus. Yeah, pointless. It's kind of harsh, but okay, fair enough. Yeah, and a portal-based mark means that they wanted to get marked into the grade book. So, and they wanted, like a mark to go on their report. So they wanted to see a goal that wasn't a badge. They wanted something that actually appeared in their mark book, so they could presumably show their tutor or their parents that they were working hard. Yeah, more in the background. Well, I guess you could interpret that how you wish. I don't really know what it means myself, actually, but it seems slightly negative, whatever it is. Can also okay, all right, yeah, of course, no 2 classes are the same. All right. Yeah, we'd have to do a bit more work on that. As I say, it would be nice if I'd had the chance to follow up with interviews and dig deeper into some of these issues that came up. And in fact, there's no reason why those badges can't appear as the leaderboard grades, because they were kept individually as well as by group. So some badges could be earned individually as well as by group. So there is no real reason why they couldn't be turned into grades and put in a grade book if you wanted to. But I thought that they would welcome the chance to do something which wasn't graded and was just, let's go see what we can do with this. But sometimes some students like a bit more structure than that. Okay, these were interesting. These were the interesting comments that I picked out. Yeah. So, yeah, educational benefit seems to be seen even by today's student as, what have I learned and what can I show that I've learned in a formal exam, and, what happens in my grade book. Yeah, rather than exploratory stuff, which for me is a little bit disappointing, perhaps because of the ethos of the school. It's a formal school. It's a good school. But perhaps students are perhaps used to being a bit more spoon-fed. I don't know. I don't know even if I should be saying that, and not, based on 4 weeks' experience. Whatever. The students wanted a bit more structure. It seems it was okay. Yeah, it seemed a bit pointless. Pointless again. Yeah, with fun moments. Sounds like a Friday afternoon activity to me. Now, where are we? Okay, organization, obviously, yeah, a 2-person team would be a lot more efficient. I actually knew that going in, but I couldn't do it because I didn't have enough kids. Yeah. Is it a totally let's push the grade school? No, not at all. Not at all. They have a horse riding academy, as I said. They sports, rowing, cycling. Cambridge is a bit of a centre for sports these days, Cambridge, New Zealand. We've got a whole lake, which I can actually see from my window now, where they go rowing, and they play rugby, of course. I probably shouldn't mention that. And soccer and cricket and all of those good things. So I can mention the cricket, obviously, at the moment. Yeah. So, yeah, it's not totally academic, and it is, if I can say, a fairly typically Kiwi cohort. I mean, they'll take their shoes off and wander around the lab in bare feet. So, yeah, I wouldn't say it was totally academic at all. But perhaps this type of student is motivated by the fact that their parents are paying money for them to be there, especially if they're boarders, and therefore they feel they ought to be producing some concrete results. And dude, there's nothing more I'd like than to get paid to sit down on the floor and build and program some Lego robots. That sounds great, but unfortunately I had other responsibilities, so I couldn't really do that. Will be good. So what did I think? Obviously, yes. They spotted that, I spotted that. I knew that going in. Perhaps I should have structured the first lesson a bit more rather than, just letting them go at it and see what they could do. I didn't want to, but maybe if I did it again, I would rethink that and just show them a robot doing something spectacular, just to incentivize them a bit more. And then certainly, I actually forgot to mention the programming forum in here. In the beginning of week 3, halfway through the course, I put in a forum for students to upload their examples. What a pity I didn't put that screenshot in. Okay, I'll add it to the course notes later on, because I took a short. So some and also there were some responses which I've seemed to have left out. So, oops. Forgive me for putting this together like an hour after I finished school. I've obviously missed a couple of things out. We did a forum. I asked several students personally, kind of stood over their shoulder and said, upload that example, it's really good, and stick it in the forum so that other students can look at it. And I did gather the feedback responses on the forum, and students did say, yes, we contributed to the forum, like 5 students contributed, another 4 students looked at the forum to draw on it, for example. So we had some peer-to-peer interaction going there. And I think only one person responded with, what forum? I didn't see any forum. One person never looked at the course, which is not bad out of 26. So I'll definitely add in a couple of slides about the forum and upload it to the course area later on. My apologies for leaving that out. And I think the leaderboard. I'll get to your question, Marion. Yeah, so to get the leaderboard, I was figuring that what I should have probably done, I don't know if you're familiar with Top Gear, where they have people race around a track and they time them, and then they put the times on magnetic strips and shuffle them around and decide where people go. So maybe something like that would draw more attention to the leaderboard. That was the one thought that I had. Is there a mark for social interaction on the course? Oh, no. I didn't. There were no marks really gathered for anything on the course except for the badge achievements. Actually, I think I planned to give people badges and points for posting ideas to the forum, but I got a funny feeling I never got around to it at the end of the day. But that would be a great addition. That would be a great idea. And as I say, the forum idea came in perhaps a little later than it should have. Certainly, if I had the forum at the beginning and primed it with some programming examples, it may have generated a lot more use. I've done that before in programming classes, like Hall of Fame type forum. So post your great ideas and your great programs here for other people to see. But I didn't do that here. Okay. So we'll give you some of that later on. And I think I'm done. Okay. All right. So acknowledgements. Yeah, good kids, good school, nice department to work for. And it made a nice change from sitting at home in front of my computer every day, slaving away for, you know, people like Mark and Joyce and Stu and so on. Yeah. Okay, there we go. Questions? No questions.
Do you think you'll do it again? Run
Well,
different versions?
If they asked me, I suppose I would. Yeah, I was just subbing for a teacher that was on long service leave, so I was just there for 4 weeks. Yeah, so and this was the first time they'd ever done this, right? So it was a new topic for them, and I have a sneaky feeling they introduced it for these 4 weeks because they knew that I was going to be there, and they knew that I'd done Lego programming before with classes. So yeah, I think they were just interested to find out how it would go and what I would do with it for them while they were away. So yeah, yeah, I'd do it again. I would. Yeah, I think the main things I would do would be to add a little more structure at the beginning. Use the forum straight away. Possibly, I don't know, possibly have more criteria for the badges, but it's kind of hard to see. I think it was important, I think, to keep it fluid. And yeah, certainly given the attitude of the students on this course, I guess a grade, yeah, would be a good thing at the end of the day. Like, you know, the more badges you get, the better your grade will be. Yeah, so you could use badges as formal markers in that way. Yeah.
Any other questions from anybody else? You can pop them into the chat or turn on your mic if you have one. Okay, well, thank you so much, Richard, especially as you had to come straight from class.
Pleasure. Yeah, I'm sorry, it's all a bit rushed. Yeah.
It's brilliant that you tried something totally new for them and that you're agile enough as a teacher to be refocusing them.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah. All right. Anyway, as I say, I will, maybe not today, but maybe not tomorrow, update the PDF presentation in the course area to add some data I gathered about the forums. As I say, I put it together probably an hour and a half ago. Yeah.
Okay, we look forward to that.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Oh, and don't forget to go and get your badge for this hour as well.
I get a badge? Wow, another badge. Love it.